This floor's got to go. This kitchen's outdated. And this shower is too small. So it's finally time to start some of the bigger projects in the house, and I cannot wait, but I'm also a little frightened because nearly every room in the house needs attention, and we definitely don't have an unlimited budget. So figuring out where to start is a pretty important decision to make sure we put our money to the best use. And so today I'm gonna walk you through how I'm thinking about it and some of the projects that we're gonna take on first. To figure it out, I'm generally thinking about this as a 3-step process, and the first is to figure out the goals for the house. And once I have the goals for the house, to figure out a budget that makes sense. And yes, I know I'm artistically challenged. That's okay. And third, once I have that budget, figure out the most valuable projects that we can do to make sure we get a return on our money. Okay, so let's talk about goals. To help us figure out what the goals are for our house, we started with kind of thinking through, what is this house to us? Is it our forever home? Is it a future rental? Or is it a house that we're gonna live in for a while and then eventually sell? We know this isn't our forever home, but if it was, we'd probably customize a little bit more and not worry as much about the future financial returns on the projects, but we know it's not, so we need to keep that longer term financial picture in mind. And we did also think about making this a future rental, in which case we would look at projects that probably made maintenance a little easier and appealed to renters a little bit more. But we used a loan that didn't require a down payment, so the economics of this don't really work out for us. This is because without the down payment, our total loan amount is higher, which means our monthly mortgage payments are higher, which means we'd have to charge a lot more than the other rents in the neighborhood, and that just wouldn't be competitive unless we paid our mortgage down over time and then eventually refinanced. Okay. So it'll be our home until we eventually sell it. So we'll need to focus on updates that maximize the resale value and appeal to more people so that hopefully we can sell it quickly and for a good price when the time comes. So with the ultimate goal to resell the house, what budget makes sense for us? We bought the house about a year ago to $109 a square foot. And on the multiple listing service, there are houses in the neighborhood right now selling for about $110 to $120. So I think with a few updates, as long as they're good, tasteful updates, we could get maybe $115 to maybe $120, which would give us a budget of about $10,000 to $15,000 before we would have to sell a house at a price per square foot above that, which would be risky. If you're trying to get some numbers on recent sales in your neighborhood to help you figure out a budget and you don't know anybody that has access to the MLS, try building some relationships with real estate agents or property managers in your area. A good one should be willing to help you out. You may have to call a few. I had to call 6, but eventually one will work with you and usually you can get some numbers. Also, I'm leaving out quite a bit about how I ran my numbers, and that's just because I'm not a financial professional and I do not want to give any misleading advice, but I would strongly encourage anybody either thinking about renting their home in the future or selling it to do a full analysis. Things like loan amortization, time value of money, cost of sale, taxes, all of these things should be considered before spending any major amounts of money. If you've never heard of these things or you've never run a full analysis before, don't worry, there are tons of resources out there to help you out. I am not sponsored or associated at all to this person or their book or their companies, but one that I found particularly helpful is this. I don't know if you can see that, but it is What Every Real Estate Investor Needs to Know About Cash Flow, 36 Other Key Financial Measures by Frank Gallinelli. This book did a really good job of breaking down all of the numbers that I needed to know, and it also did a really good job of putting them in the real estate context so that I could run the numbers and see for myself. And on top of that, there are also a lot of free Excel tools on Frank's website that you can just download that help actually run the numbers for you. They're helpful. Now with a budget, we need to think through which projects we should commit to and start with first. One thing I think is important to consider are the major deal breakers, things like having a good solid foundation, a good HVAC system, and a good roof, things that may come up in an inspection and could potentially make a buyer walk away. But luckily, we're all good in this category. We've only had one issue. It was with our HVAC systems. We had to replace the plenums on the air handlers upstairs in the attic because they had old ones on it and it had insulation inside of them that had fallen off and it was blocking airflow and it was making the entire downstairs smelly. But we got that taken care of, so we're all set in this category and can move on to some of the other more interesting things. Interesting things. So with no major deal breaker projects to worry about, where do we start? If I've learned anything from the real estate shows and these flipping shows, it's that bathrooms and kitchens sell houses.
Bathroom and kitchens are everything.
And this is actually backed up by a few articles from Remodeling Magazine, HGTV, This Old House, and some others. The details all vary a little bit, but they all seem to agree that bathrooms and kitchens tend to give you the best return on your money with renovations and remodels. Our kitchen is definitely dated, and the appliances, most of them are broken in some way or another. So I think the kitchen and downstairs is really where most of our investment opportunity is for our projects. So that's where we're gonna start. But our master bathroom obviously needs quite a bit of work, and so does our guest bathroom. So both of those are definitely on the list as well. I'm coming out of the shower. Also, to make the kitchen and everything else downstairs work, this floor has gotta go. The tile's old, it's faded, the grout's really nasty, and it's not very neutral, and it's not going to really match anything else. Also, there are a few curb appeal updates that I'm considering in the must-do category. We have a little wood rot in the attic vent. The fence facing the cul-de-sac is also aging and falling apart. Looks pretty bad. And the driveway has some issues like stains and water erosion that should probably be touched up. And if there's any money left over after all of that, we would like to update the lighting in some areas of the house. You can see I'm sitting in my living room right now. That's the natural light at about 2:30 in the afternoon because the sun travels around the front side of the house. So it gets kind of dark, and some recessed lighting in the living room and in the kitchen would really help brighten it up because the 4 bulbs on our ceiling fan just aren't cutting it. So I don't know if that's all possible with $10,000 or $15,000, but we're gonna find out, and hopefully you'll be around. I want you to subscribe, but I don't know how to say it. Subscribe if you want to follow along with the projects. We'll walk through every step of the way, every mistake made, every lesson learned. Hopefully we'll see you in the next one.